I am Jim Collison and live from the Gallup campus here in Omaha, Nebraska. This is Gallup's Called the Coach, recorded on April 1st, 2016. Called the Coach is a resource for those who want to help others discover and use their strengths. We have Gallup experts and independent strengths coaches share tactics, insights, and strategies to help other coaches maximize the talent of individuals, teams, and organizations around the world. If you do have questions during the webcast, we do have a live chat room that's available for you right below the main video window. So if you just look straight down there, in some cases, it may not be there. It might be blocked. We have there's some issue. If you have an issue with any of our stuff, look down below there. It'll say have issues, and there's a live link to it. Oftentimes, if you click it there, it'll bring it up live for us. If you'd like to ask questions during our program, just ask them live right there in the chat room. If you're listening to the recorded version or have questions about custom strengths coaching solutions for small, medium, or large organizations, we do that. So send us an email, coaching@gallup.com, or you can use the contact form that's right there on the live page. Don't forget to visit the Gallup Strengths Center, gallupstrengthscenter.com, for all your coaching resources and StrengthsFinder training needs. You can also catch the video and now both stream downloadable audio for offline listening. You can recapture that time in a car, on a train, in a plane, those kinds of things. You can listen to the audio-only versions off your phone and a pair of earbuds. Works great. Everything to get that, including the links to our apps, the Top 5 app as well, if you want to get your Top 5 right there on your phone, available on our coaches blog, coaching.gallup.com. Heather Wright is our host today. Heather works as a senior learning and development consultant here on the riverfront with me. Actually, just a few doors down from me now on the riverfront.
Now.
We are. Heather, welcome to another Call to Coach.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and welcome to a really good neighborhood in the Gallup hallways, Jim. I'm excited for our guest today, Jim. I first met Cheryl Pace when she was a participant in the Accelerated Strengths Coaching course that I led almost a year ago, wasn't it, Cheryl?
Yes, it was.
So very excited to introduce Cheryl and to host the conversation with her today. Cheryl is the director of the Organizational Improvement Office at the University of Kansas Medical Center. So condolences to your basketball team, Cheryl, but just great things to celebrate in terms of what's happening on your campus relative to strength. So I'm excited for you to help our listeners and our viewers learn more about what you've been up to. They always ask, so I'm going to put it out there right away. Cheryl's top 5: relator, consistency, learner, intellection, and responsibility in her top 5. So you will hear those come through loud and clear as we talk today. But Cheryl, I'd love it if first you could just share with us a little bit about the work that you do each day in the Organizational Improvement Office at KU Med Center. Tell us a little bit about your work with strengths there.
Yeah, just a little bit of background too about how I even started including strengths in it. The Organizational Improvement Office is fairly new. It's just about 3.5 years old now. And I moved into it when a new Vice Chancellor for Administration created the unit to help us start following the Baldrige Excellence Framework. I don't know how many people out in the audience are familiar with that. So it's a framework that helps you continually improve and establish excellence in your organization. And there is an actual annual award you can apply for. But it's great to use even if you don't want to apply for that award. So we took kind of a pre-assessment to find out which areas we needed to improve in the most, based on the Baldrige criteria, and those 2 areas were strategic planning and workforce. And workforce, of course, is all about engaging your employees. And the first thing we did was actually develop an in-house employee development leadership type program. We call it the Jayhawk Way, for hopefully obvious reasons. And we decided, we're leaders at all levels, and this program really helped people develop a common language and a common tool set just around how to do things like managing difficult conversations and expectations and even understanding why you're here and what your purpose for life and what you get out of your work. And kind of as a sidelight, my small team, we had 5 people at the time. Now there's really just kind of 2.5 of us. But we took Strength Finders, because one of us knew about it, as a way to do some team building. All of us had been here in other departments on campus. And I've taken a lot of assessments over the years, and this one just really, really rang true for me. And I started looking into it more and thought how well it aligned with what we were doing with the Jayhawk Way and our cultural transformation and just the whole process of employee engagement. And particularly the point that it was a strength-based development tool for employees to really know that we're trying to help them improve, not just fixing what's wrong with them. And I really thought we needed to get a coach here. And then the more I thought about it, I thought I should be that coach. And
I love it.
we actually had a consultant come in 3 times who I realized now at that time she wasn't a certified coach. I don't know if she is now or not, but she did a great job introducing it to us. And we realized for the money we were spending on the consultant, we could have trained me. So I got trained and I went to your class. I was just so fortunate to have you and Kurt as my instructors. I still remember every day of that. It was one of the best weeks of training I've ever had in anything. And then I came back and started my program here. I got certified in May and just started coaching individuals, and then really started all my team coaching last June.
Oh, very good.
I don't know how much more you want to know about all of that.
That's great background, because I think where I always want to hear people talk about, and what I think our coaches are so excited to hear you talk about, is, you know, a little bit of the stories of those teams and those individuals that you've coached. So share with me a story or two about where you've seen your coaching have impact in this Jayhawk way. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, I have several stories I've been thinking about that'll be fun to share. One of them, one of the very first teams I met with was the small business unit in our facilities management department, and they had a new manager who had actually taken her assessment at a previous job. And she got here, and she'd been here a few months, and she heard that I was doing this, and she wanted me to work with her team. And I, of course, with consistency number 2, have a really well-defined process I use with everything that I can describe later if you want to hear that. But one of the first things I do is just meet with the department and give an overview about what Strength Finders is before they even take the assessment. And so, of course, she jumped right in and helped me with that and added a lot of things, and I already knew her top 5, and her number 1 is restorative. So she told all her staff, who were still getting used to her, that number 1 was her restorative was her number 1, and she just loved to solve problems, and everything she saw was a problem that she wanted to go out and fix right away. And that now you understand why when you come tell me anything, I'm trying to jump right in and help you fix it. So now you know why. Just tell me, Margaret. I don't need you to help me. I'm just informing you. And the amazing thing about how that empowered her staff to actually tell her no was so powerful. I mean, and then I met with each of them in their individual sessions, which I always do before getting back together as a team session. And every single one of them told me that it just made such a huge difference in the whole dynamic of their office with their new manager, how they could communicate with her better after her explaining that about her own top 5 strengths. So that one was really fun, and that was really early in my coaching career. Another one that I really like, I worked with one of the larger groups, a couple combined divisions in our student services, which is just an amazing team. They already had something in place that they call a SNAP Cup, which I had never heard of. So at each of their staff meetings, they take this SNAP Cup, which is where people put in notes of appreciation or something they wanted to thank something for doing since the last staff meeting. And they call it a snap cup because they all snap their fingers when people talk or read that one, like you do at a poetry session or something like that. And I can't snap my fingers, so I can't do that.
Kind of one of those.
Yeah, exactly. So they'd been doing that, but I went, this is one of the teams that I've gone back to several of their staff meetings just to do some more exercises to help keep Strength Finders, keep the momentum going. Mm-hmm. And I found out that now when they do their Snap Cup and they're reading it, they all think about which of that person's top 5 helped them can make that contribution to the team that they're thanking them for.
Oh,
So they're using
nice.
it all the time, which is really exciting.
Oh, I love hearing how it's become embedded in a part of the everyday conversation, not just an experience or a team building thing that we went through and then we go back to our regularly scheduled work. It's
Yeah,
beautiful to
yeah,
see kind of the sustainability of strengths in those environments that
yeah.
you've mentioned.
I
Tell
think
me
my,
a little,
oh,
I know people are going to be curious because you mentioned you could tell us later, and I'm sure Jim's probably already seen someone saying, so what is this well-defined process that Cheryl follows for getting a great session set up and really thinking about how to execute? So I'm sure people would be really eager to hear what's that process look like for you.
okay, well, remember I have consistency, so if this
Mhm.
starts sounding a little too OCD, let me know. But and I've modified this over time. You know, since last June, I kept trying different things, and just trying to keep track of everything was driving me crazy, of course. So I had a bit of a lull in January, and I was able to step back and put a lot of tools in place for myself. So I
Mhm.
actually have a spreadsheet that I call my master grid, and I keep track of everybody on there and what their top 5 themes are. There's still people I haven't been able to coach yet, so I have more people on there than I've coached. So I have all their themes. I keep track of which team they're in, and then all their different coaching sessions, and if they were in a manager coaching session and their team sessions. Um, and in the on that same spreadsheet, I also have a grid like the team grid that Gallup provides. And
Mhm.
I also have a spreadsheet for the team, so I keep track of the teams and who my contact is for the team and where I am with them. Sometimes with logistics here and scheduling, it's a little hard for me to have the first session with a team, do all the individual coaching, and then their team session. Sometimes that can stretch out over several months, but
Sure.
I'm getting used to that. So basically, I start with the first contact. I meet with the manager, and I just sit down and explain to them my process like I am to you. And I give them a little bit of background about Strength Finders and what I've been doing, and also help them understand how it aligns with what we're doing with the Jayhawk Way and our employee development program here. And then I meet with the team and give them an introductory PowerPoint presentation that I've put together. Sometimes they've taken their top 5, most times they haven't. And then
Mhm.
the department goes out and purchases the access codes for their department, which I think is another thing that's been a nice sidelight is everybody appreciates the fact that their department sees the value in giving them the time to come meet with me and to take the time to do the team sessions and to purchase the access codes.
Mhm.
Yeah. So after that team session, then after they take their assessment, they send me their top 5, and I put together some materials for everybody. I keep a folder on everyone here, and I prepare some things that have modified since last June, but a lot of them are ideas I got from the Call to Coach Facebook and the Yammer
Mhm.
sites. Just it's it's just amazing what the network is and how other coaches share
Well,
anything and
yeah,
everything with
so
you. So
supportive, isn't
yeah,
it?
I've
I
learned
just
so
think that's
much and got so many ideas for tools. So
mhm.
then I have the individual coaching session, and I have another checklist for that. And then I get back together, depending on how many people, how many managers there are on the team. I may
Mhm.
have just another session with the manager who was the first one who contacted me. I may include the management in their individual coaching session, or I'll have a second session with all of the managers. And I wait until I have met with all the team members before I do that, because one of the things that I ask each team member is that what are the individual needs of the team questionnaire. That's always how
Mhm.
I end an individual session when it's someone who's part of a team. So when
Right.
I meet with the managers, I show them that, and I give them a preview of the grid that I've put together, which is the team grid. And I
Mhm.
actually shared out my version of that in the Yammer group because
Oh,
I
good.
have several worksheets on there that kind of show the data in different ways because people see patterns in different ways. And then
Yeah.
we get together and have the team session. And I have another PowerPoint about a strength-based team, which I draw on all the material I got from you for these PowerPoints. And then after that presentation, I start the team session with looking at that grid and discussing that, which is always gets some fun conversations going. And I do 2 exercises. I do Love, Crazy, Envy, and then I have everybody describe what they think their most powerful contribution to the team is, and then the team, with my help, ties that back to their top 5 themes.
Nice.
And then I've been putting together some things to try and keep that momentum going with everyone I've coached. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, that was, I just think about how thorough, and I guess, one of the questions that comes to mind for me, and Jim, you can send me other questions or interrupt as we go here, but if our audience has questions, I always think one of the cool things for me is how much time you've been, your credibility, your willingness to kind of put the time in prior to even launching that team grid in front of the team. A lot of teams want so quickly, it's like, ooh, we took the Strengths Finder, now show us our team grid. And just the diligence that you have to say, here's the process that really works best. Here's the structure of how we're going to do this. And that people will say, all right, Cheryl, we'll make the time. We'll make the time to let you coach our people one-on-one. We'll meet with you as a team of managers to hear more about what you learned and how we can be attentive to that as we go into the team session. What do you think it is about you or your organization or this strengths focus that has people saying yes to you when you say, I need to do these steps before we even get to the team conversation?
I think there's several things, and I guess part of it, I usually am more humble than this, but I do think I've been here almost 28 years, and if people don't know me, they know who I am and they know my reputation, and people trust me. And if I say this is the way I think it's the best way to do something, they usually pretty much take my word for it, which is nice.
I'm hearing your responsibility theme really come through, strong and clear there. It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Heather, there was a question Michael asked out in chat, and he asked, which groups do you share, Cheryl, this is for you, which groups do you share those examples with? Which groups do you share those examples within, is the question, sorry. Do you remember going back, you were saying you were sharing those examples? Maybe I'll need to get...
the examples of what?
Okay, so I'll have Michael rephrase that question for me. And then
I'm sorry.
Move forward. No, it's okay. I thought it makes sense, and it's okay.
I'm not quite tracking with it either. So if Michael can clarify for us, that'd be great. Cheryl, anything else have you ever had pushback from a manager that says, oh, I just want my people to take StrengthsFinder, and can you just tell us can you just build us a team grid, or can you just coach a couple of people? Have you ever had any pushback where someone didn't want to really own the process or wasn't seeking? I wonder if it's because you came in under that Baldrige excellence pursuit, that people are really saying, hey, we're devoted to creating some engagement. We're devoted to creating a common language. And so that predisposes them.
Yeah, and most of the people that I've met with have all been through this Jayhawk Way program that I've talked about. So I haven't gotten any pushback that I would say, but I am reaching the point where I'm working with some of our departments that are fairly large and have a large group of employees that don't really have a desk. They're not comfortable using a computer. They don't even maybe check their email one time a day, like the people all the animal caretakers, the facilities management people that are constantly walking around, inspecting everything around here. I just finished meeting with all of our security officer supervisors, but there's a force of 40 security officers who aren't really our police. They're kind of a level below the police. So thinking about the best way to meet with those groups. So it's not really pushback that they don't want to have them do this. I think everyone agrees it's a great idea for everybody to take the assessment know that they've been given the opportunity to do that. But whether it's going to make sense for me to be able to actually have an individual coaching session with every single one of those people, and that's,
Right.
and they know some of them just won't want to do it. So I'm not going to force it on anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel really good that everybody at a management level has really bought into this and wants to do it as much as they can throughout their departments.
Great.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so I've got a little clarification on that. So,
Okay.
Cheryl, you were talking about the grid, the strengths grid, and those templates that you created. And you mentioned you shared those
Oh,
in the
yeah,
communities, and I think
yeah,
the answer to that is in our Yammer community is kind of where you've
exactly.
posted those.
Mhm.
So, as part of Gallup trained or Gallup certified coach, you get access to a special a community we call Yammer. It's just the platform it's on, and you've shared those inside the Yammer community.
Right, and
That's
there's actually a Yammer group about the team grid. I think that's where I posted it.
Yeah, no, we created one specifically for the Gallup Learning Series. We were going to be talking about the grid, so I created that in there and made that available. So that's where those are, Michael.
perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Sorry about that.
Oh, good
Thanks.
clarification. So, any other stories or testimonials? What about individuals? Have you seen any individual transformation through coaching, Cheryl?
I actually have. I mean, this is kind of both an individual and her team, but a director of one of our departments came to me about coaching because she actually was worried she might lose her job. She knew she wasn't communicating well with her team, and she had some recent turnover and was worried about losing the rest of her team.
Oh.
And she was also somebody I've known for quite a while. So she just really took everything to heart, and for her, it wasn't as much her own top 5 and understanding herself. It was really listening to what all of the team members said to me when I met with them individually, and they talked about the needs of the team. And it's just amazing, and really makes me feel good how this has worked for them. The biggest thing everybody said was that they never felt like they had any access to her and didn't have time to talk to her about problems and things they needed answers to. They'd wait until they had a staff meeting, and they'd be so busy trying to get those questions answered while they had her focused attention, that the other real things they had to talk about didn't get talked about. So what they've done now, they have a great new space they moved into recently, and they have a daily huddle every single morning at 8:30, and she's there for it. And on the wall of that room, they've blown up their team grid. So they have this large poster-sized version of the grid showing everybody's top 5 themes. And they refer to it all the time when they're talking about upcoming projects or problems they have to resolve. And just the whole dynamic when you go have meetings with that group now has changed incredibly. And she's had me, they're in one of our offsite campuses, locations, so I have to drive over there. So twice now she's just scheduled a day for me to come sit there and have people come through and have refresher sessions too after their first individual coaching sessions.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's a refresher session feel like?
Well, that was new for me, and I wasn't quite sure what it would be like, but I have them. I've had multiple coaching sessions with a lot of individuals, but a refresher session for these when I knew I was only going to have 30 minutes to do it. Right. The one thing I do to kind of wrap everything up in an individual coaching session is give people the theme map to fill out and use. And I really focus on 2 areas in that I think most people don't think about, and that's the value that you bring to the team and what you need to bring that value. So since I knew I had asked all of them that, I had the refresher session. I kind of asked them, focused on their answers to those 2 areas and asked them if they felt like, they were getting what they needed. So,
very good.
Yeah, so that was fun.
See, I just think that's a really good nugget for people to take away, because sometimes we only get the one touch with people in our coaching, and sometimes we do get ongoing coaching relationships. And just to think about, I always like the idea of a little bit of homework, as you're with someone and you say, hey, let's have you think about this between now and the next time. And you know, you didn't necessarily even know when you assigned them that theme map that you would even have the follow-up conversation possibility. But
Right.
just to say, reflect on this, think about this, something to keep it alive for individuals as they leave a coaching session. But then the luxury of having a refresher, and how powerful for the individuals to say,
Yeah.
"Ooh, I get to talk to someone about this again. You know, I get to spend some more time thinking about really what value do I add and how can I be more intentional about that." I just think that's a wonderful gift you're
And I
giving.
let everyone know I am available for however many coaching sessions they want. I mean, I have an incredible set of tools that I got from all of you to use. And
Mhm.
but I do tell them that if we do meet again, the first thing I'm going to do is look at this theme map. So hopefully that helps encourage them to do that.
This is
And,
why you need to do your homework. We
and then
may quiz you in the future.
exactly. But then I always, those coaching sessions, the follow-up ones that I've had with people, I've have a few people that have already had their fourth session. So I just
Wow.
pick more tools from the toolkit I got from you, and I
Mhm.
always send them away with another exercise to work on.
Very
I
good.
try and call it an exercise or activity instead of homework.
That's good.
Yeah.
That probably, even though you're an academic institution, the
Right,
idea of homework probably feels a little,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
that's good.
And
You
speaking
know,
of academic, that's actually one of the exciting things. Besides just coaching individuals and teams, I've been able to do a few other things. I've given presentations for a group of all the postdocs that meet monthly,
mhm.
and they have sort of a professional development lunch and learn monthly. And so I
Oh,
did one of
nice.
those on Strength Finders. And that was different for me because I knew many of them didn't have their top five and may not ever have it. So I was kind of trying to word it in a way that they could think about these same concepts even if they didn't actually know their top five.
Right.
And then I was a guest lecturer in the Health Information Management seminar course,
Huh?
and did a lecture on strength finders, and they actually all did take their top five before the session, so that was really fun. But
Mhm.
that was a team session without having the individual sessions ahead of time. And that
Okay.
same department is now going to have me work with all of their faculty, and we'll be kicking off their faculty retreat this summer with a team session, and I'll meet with each of them individually before that. So this will be my first group of faculty. I'm excited about that. And then they're going to have their new group of students coming in the fall. I'll take the assessment and meet
Oh,
with me.
wonderful.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
really exciting.
Yeah,
That's
so
really exciting.
that'll be different for me to work with students and faculty.
Right, right.
Cheryl, one of the things, when we interviewed you for the Gallup Learning Series, and that was kind of how I met you the first time, I put a note out and said, hey, we'd love to hear how you're using the team grid, and you sent me some great examples back, and if we have some time, maybe we can talk a little bit more about team grid. But one of the things that's impressed me most about what you're doing there is sometimes in the coaching world, we get kind of hooked on with the latest and greatest or the newest and shiny or kind of we dig into these themes and we spend tons of time in a little bit of a dilemma I call name it, and name it, where all we do is talk about the themes, and we split hairs over definitions of such. And one of the things that's really impressed me about what you've done is you went right to work. You started coaching. You began just doing the work. You said in both on our learning series and here today, you said, you gave us a whole bunch of materials. I just started using them.
Right.
And I
Mhm.
think that has really, you also said to me when we were talking, I don't really have to go find clients because
Right.
I'm so busy, right? You've kind of filled up your space with that. And so, I kind of want to, with KU there, with the Med Center, kind of hold that up as a great example of an internal coach, right? They made the decision to put a coach inside you weren't consulting anymore. You were
Right.
kind of the inside resource. And I think that's worked. I think that has worked really well. Can you kind of talk about? I mean, from a load standpoint, do you get to a point where you're like, I can't do anymore, and do people get turned away, or how does that work?
Well, it's interesting you said that because I was worried about that. I didn't want to do a lot of promotion, although my colleague in organizational improvement wanted to start doing that. And I said, well, I'm going to have to tell people, sure, I'd love to meet with you, but wait 3 months because I do have a load. I mean, I honestly don't know what my coaching load is like, how to compare it with any other coach. But since last June, I've coached about 150 different people, some of them multiple times, 14 different teams. So that includes, the introductory meeting, the team sessions, all the individual sessions, and the work that I do for each individual session and then to prepare for the team session. And there were some weeks where I was coaching 3 or 4 people a day. And I realized that was a little bit too much. But, I think I've just come to accept the fact that, because I'm still doing all the other things I was doing in my job.
I was just going to say, and there is more to your job.
Yeah.
It's not your full-time job.
Right. Well, it's not my full-time job, but it's really become my priority too. So, and I love doing it. But I'm sorry, I got sidetracked there. What the actual answer is?
Just from a
load,
from a internal coaching standpoint and handling that load.
Right.
That's kind of what we were.
So I think part of it is people have just been patient. I mean, I just take each team as I get a request, and I tell them when I think I'll be able to get to them, and they're fine with that, as long as they have a time frame to work with. So far, I haven't had to put anyone off more than about 2 months, and they're okay with that. Yeah.
That's good.
And you spend some time though with each individual. Really digging in a little bit kind of before, and you've got relator, right? And so you really want to get to know them. And I remember that being kind of a key to your coaching style.
Well, when you said aim it.
No, name it. Name
it. I thought, well, what I do is claim it. That's really what I focus on in the individual coaching session. I tell them, the name it, claim it, aim it. I said, but what we're really going to focus on is claim it. Because most people that come to me, the first thing I do is ask them, what their reaction was to the assessment. There's that great discussion guide, their first impressions. So I use that. And everyone says, oh, it just nailed me, or it was dead on, or I really wasn't surprised, but, I'm still not quite sure what this means, So then I use the Getting to Know You discussion guide. I don't ask every question on there, but and this is actually great fun for me too. I go through that discussion guide, and then I see if I heard their top 5 in the answers they gave me. And that's how I help them start getting insights into their themes here at work, because I tell them how I saw those themes in action in the answers that they gave me. So it's kind of a fun little puzzle for me, and then they love hearing about it. And we also talk, I mean, many of these people I've known, some just briefly or just as, work colleagues, but so we kind of get caught up too before the meeting starts, so I hear things in there and can relate a little bit to some of the personal things I know about some of them too. And then the other 2 things that I talk about are self-awareness and self-regulation. So I talk about basements and balconies and raw and mature. And if they're a manager, I give them the manager insights, which I think that booklet is phenomenal. It gives some great insight. Yeah. And before you know it, an hour's over.
Oh, yeah. Well, and your relator shines through so clearly. I'm wondering how your intellection supports this process as you're on the journey with a team.
Yeah.
I've got some thoughts about it, but I'd love to hear you talk about it.
Well, I have learner and intellection, and sometimes it's hard for me to think of them separately. I think the 2 of them combined have just kind of explained my career, basically. You know, how I'm always doing something new, and even though I've been here almost 28 years, every 5 years I seem to have the opportunity to do something new, and I love learning that. So, you know, the learning about the whole concept of strength finders, you know, I poured through my kit after I got, you know, you wouldn't let us open it until what, the second or third day. So, you know,
And
I
then
was
it was
dying
like
to open that up.
Christmas.
Yeah, it was. It was like Christmas. You know, so I went back at the hotel room at night and was reading that, and just
Of
loved going
course.
through that. And then the intellection side is just really thinking about how I can apply this and use it. You know, I love doing that, and I think that intellection is also the part that frustrates me some, because there's so much out there. I don't have time to get on the Facebook site or the Yammer site or read all the books there are, and I want to absorb it and read it all because I know I can use it to better my coaching practice, but I will someday. Yeah.
But you, Cheryl, you also have executing in there, which, you know, intellection and learner can be one of those that can bog people down, and even a relator, as you get to know people, that can kind of bog it down. I was super impressed with your execution. You know, 100 and what did you say? 150 people. I mean, this was just one of those. This was just one of those things. As I was talking to you, it's like you're getting this done. You're not just you jumped in there, and you know, you talked about just getting certified last June. And when we had you on the learning series, you were a little worried, like, "Hey, I've only been doing this 6 months." And honestly, when we talked to you, when I had you submitted some examples to me. You had done in 6 months what it takes some people tons of time to do. What is that executing for you? What drives that? How do you keep that rolling and keep that moving?
Well, part of it, I think, is responsibility because, you know, I work for a state agency. I live in, you know, we're in Kansas. That's the end of that. Won't get into that conversation. So the investment they made in me to send me to training and to do this, you know, I didn't have any choice but to deliver on that. You know, I mean, I had to do it. Plus, I love doing it, partly because of the relator, and the consistency piece helps me put together this whole process and have a process that works for me, that helps me do this, you know, to get it done and to pull it all together. Consistency and responsibility, I think those two things, when I saw my assessment the first time I took it, I'm like, wow, that's been my whole life. I mean, it really did. I first called them my middle child syndrome because I think when my consistency was a bit undeveloped, my three favorite words as a young child were "that's not fair." So,
Cheryl, it's super interesting because Mike and I just covered consistency yesterday, right, on Theme Thursday, and we all admitted, in fact, almost everybody in the chat room had consistency low. So it's 31 for me. It's like I think 32 or 33 for Micah. And so we had these conversations, and super interesting. That's not fair. We talked a lot about that, and I learned a lot about consistency. Amazing as we tie that together now with you, and we think about this consistency. We didn't talk about this, but consistency and responsibility together, really driving you. It almost looks like Achiever in some ways when we think about you're getting things done. However, you're getting things done based. When we think about the relator piece, bringing that in for the benefit of the people, and I think that's just a sweet combo.
Yeah. And Jim, I think the cool thing about it is that it's not fair for others. Sometimes the immaturity of that consistency can be it's not fair for me, but I think your responsibility almost shifts it to but wouldn't be fair to others. So it's not a selfishness, it's very altruistic in terms of you're trying to deliver what's right for others, and that what you do for one team you want to do for every team. And I think the beauty of how your intellection sprinkles throughout that is that whether you're crunched for time or trying to get this done in the next couple of months for the team, just knowing who you are with that intellection, you're giving thoughtful consideration to each person that you coach. You're really not just taking their strengths at face value, but that intellection really gives you thoughtfulness about who the person is and what their strengths are and how that links to the bigger team.
Thank you.
I just think it's beautiful. I'd love to hear how, all this package of your incredible talent. Jim's mentioned it a couple of times, and I think some of our listeners were really hungry about. So what do those team grids look like? And you mentioned just even being able to kind of slice the data a few different ways. Explain for those who haven't been out to the Yammer page to see it or who don't have access. Explain a little bit about the different iterations of the team grid that you utilize.
Well, I have the main team grid that you can download off your resource page, and I usually just show that first, and that just shows everybody's name and where their top 5 fall in the domains and everything. And then I build on that. There's one worksheet that has the grid, and then I just pull out all of the numbers and who has which grid underneath that by the domain. So it's really, rather than a visual image, it's more just columns in a spreadsheet. And then I also have a page where all I have are their top 5 themes color coordinated, so that it's not a grid that you see. I just have every person's name up there with their top 5, but the colors really pop out, so the patterns of the domains are really visible. And I got that from another coach's grid that they shared a while back. And then I kind of put that together, so you have the main team grid, and underneath it you have the colors of the domains that pop out. But then I also have another one that I've just sorted everyone's themes 2 different ways, one alphabetically by domain and one numerically, so they know they can see right at the top of the list which 5 or 10 or however many nobody has, instead of having to see that visually from the grid, which sometimes I can see people are kind of going cross-eyed. So I look at all of those, and the ones we really settle on during the team session that I leave up on the screen is the one with the grid and then the visual of the domains underneath that. So it's real easy to see those colors.
Very good.
People are starting to call themselves a blue person or a purple person or a red person. Yeah.
They're using the colors to identify themselves.
I like that.
That's cool. That's cool. And the colors mean nothing, by the way. If we don't, there is an assessment where colors mean things, and this is not that. But it is fun to have them identify that,
And you've talked about my executing themes being strong, and purple is my favorite color. So,
there you go.
I wanted to say something, Jim, when you were talking about the Theme Thursday yesterday. I really appreciated something that you and Micah said about change and consistency. And when you brought that up, it made me think about how this is really what I'm doing here at the medical center too, because people who have consistency don't hate change and aren't resistant to change. They just want to make change apply to everybody and figure out a way to make it happen in an efficient, effective way and help people understand that change. And that's a lot of what is happening here over the last 4 years with our Jayhawk Way and our Baldridge effort and all of this performance excellence journey, as Baldridge calls it. So even before Strength Finders, I felt like that was one of the things I was bringing to organizational improvement, was to helping people understand that change and making them feel safe about it and comfortable about it. And now I think Strength Finders is helping that even more.
That's great.
And Cheryl, I hadn't thought about that till you said that yesterday, so thank you.
Well, it taught me too. I mean, Micah kind of taught me in that process. I didn't particularly understand what that was about, but good to hear it from you. For me, it's reinforcement 2 days in a row. Yeah. And when I think of consistency now, you're like going to be my poster child. I'm
or Jiminy Cricket, like Micah said.
Jiminy Cricket was a good good poster child for that. When we were thinking about the strengths grid earlier, an interesting thought came to me. You were talking about one of the teams had blown that up and then had posted it. I was thinking, what if you blew that up and then laminated it, and you could write on it? Like people could go up and circle things and make notes, and when you think of it that way, I mean, think how powerful that could be, and then after a while erase it and then start over, right? And that kind of setting.
Or I love, we could add that to the team that does the Snap Cup. And that's where people could write their thoughts about, here's where I saw this talent show up when you did this project, or when you contribute, here's the theme I saw, or just have it present so it helps kind of prompt them thinking about their themes.
I mean, their Snap Cup is really like your bucket, with the
That's
drops in the bucket and
great.
everything. Yeah,
Love
yeah,
hearing.
yeah.
So, if we have time, Jim, I want to ask one more little piece. In our pre-conversation, Cheryl and I were just exploring all the different ways that she uses the strengths. Cheryl, I'd love to ask you about outside of the University of Kansas Medical Center. You've had the opportunity to do a little bit of strengths coaching in the community. You talked about the harvesters, the community food bank. I think people would be interested to hear about that as well. Tell me a little bit about how you helped folks in the community be more aware of
Yeah,
strengths.
that was really a great opportunity, and I feel like I am a coach for KUMC, so I'm not in the coaches directory, and I don't promote it. I don't have my own business or anything. But Harvesters is a not-for-profit community organization, and we do have outreach here as part of our mission. So I felt comfortable doing that, and I just happened to. My sister knew that I was a coach, and she knew someone who worked at Harvesters, and she's been volunteering there since she retired. And um, this person just said, "Hey, we took our top 5. What do you think of that?" And she said, "Hey, my sister's a coach." So I connected with them, and that was another good experience for me. I mean, it was actually the group of their fund developers, the people who go out and try and get. There were about 8 of them in the group, and they all sent me their top 5 ahead of time, and I put together a different type of presentation where I kind of combined everything that I do with the introduction and a little bit of leadership, a little bit of management, and strength-based team. And I put together a grid for them. What I didn't do is prepare all the individual things that I do for individuals here. And I spent a whole morning with them going through all that. But I did do the same team exercises with Love, Crazy, Envy, and talking about their most powerful contribution, and it's actually, my husband and I, it's our favorite charity here in town too, so it was wonderful to be able to help them and get their feedback, and it was, they got really emotional talking about some of their powerful contributions. It was a very moving experience for me. Yeah.
Well, what a great way to kind of keep the mission of strengths and align it with some things that are just a big part of your world. And again, like you said, when you think about helping people know their strengths and thinking about how they can collaborate with others towards a common purpose,
Right.
Just the impact to that. So I thought that was neat to say. While this is my primary focus for my coaching, it's like you can't help but coach around strengths wherever you go. Very good.
That's true.
Jim,
I do talk about it a lot.
that's good. That's good. Any other questions, Jim? I just have kind of one more before.
No, go ahead. Let's do one more and we'll wrap it.
Well, I was going to ask, we've talked about the Jayhawk way, about the Baldrige application process. I'm sure people are curious, Cheryl, where is KU Med Center in the Baldrige application process? Is that something you're ready to apply for?
Oh, no.
Where do you go next?
Well, that's a huge undertaking. It takes a while to get ready to even apply. I mean, even writing the application is quite an effort.
Right.
I don't know when we'll be ready to actually write an application. We've made huge strides. We've made a lot of progress. What's exciting here about it is that in the last 3 years, we've had, I would say, complete turnover in all of our executive leadership. And so my colleague and I are just starting a brand new process facilitating the strategic planning, because our current, I guess I should say, strategic plan ends this year. So we have a new executive vice chancellor who's been here 3 years, 2 new deans that just came on board in January. Wow. I mean, in December, January. Wow. Another new dean who's been here maybe a year and a half. So it's really exciting and fun to be a part of all of that. So I feel like we're getting steps, and it's nice for us because we're able to align the goals and strategies that are being set now in our new plan with Baldrige, which has been what's been difficult for us, we feel, in making progress towards being able to write that application, is that the current plan we've been working on just was not written with that framework in mind.
Right.
So it's been hard to kind of get it all meshed and make it work
Yeah.
out right. And
This is a great opportunity going forward.
yeah, and we're also Baldrige examiners, which means we're part of the examiner team, so we help review the applications for the current year's awards. So
Hmm.
that helps us. You learn a lot by doing that.
I
This
was
will
going
be
to
my
say.
second year as an examiner. Yeah.
So now you know what the committee is looking for.
Right,
And
exactly.
one of the ways I was just thinking as you were talking about the application process, I keep thinking knowing people's strengths, having done the work that you
Hmm.
have, will help you assemble a really great team to build that application and just to think about what can each of us contribute to the application process through the lens of our strengths. That'll be really
Right.
powerful.
And I'm really hoping it won't be long before I get to actually coach the deans and EVC, and
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
that'll be really fun.
Good. Well, Cheryl, it's you're just such a gift in
Thank
terms
you.
of, I think Jim's kind of called this out throughout the conversation, but I think the beauty of what I see in you as a coach, beyond your talent, is just your willingness to dive in, to get to work, and to utilize the tools. I think our team built such a great set of toolkits, and really was thoughtful about what do coaches need. And I just love hearing you say that, we met your needs,
Yeah.
but you've kind of then taken those tools and gone above and beyond with those tools and made them what what KU Medical Center needed to be successful. And so thank you for all the hard work. Thank you for the brilliant smarts that you bring to your coaching, the learner, the passion about just really building through the lens of your learner, your intellection, and that consistency and responsibility, the right thing for people to pursue excellence. It's really
Thank you.
beautiful to watch. So we'll all be anxious to kind of continue the journey with you.
Oh, thank you. It is, when Jim talked to me about doing this, I hadn't really thought about it until I heard about this series, but it does truly feel like I was called to coach and to do this, and I'm just having more fun now than I ever have in any career I've ever had. So
Well, I
That's
appreciate you saying yes and coming back when we ask you to. And
yeah,
this will be a video I'll point new coaches to as kind of a primer for our materials in some
oh
ways, as we
great,
kind of think
yes.
about what are some of the things right off the bat where you can make an impact. Sometimes we make it a little more difficult than it should be. And Cheryl, you've just kind of cut through and said, these are the tools that I have available. This is what I'm going to use, and I'm going to get right to business.
Yeah,
And when I
really
heard
nice.
you say those things during the Gallup Learning Series, I was just super impressed. Of course, your responsibility, consistency as a Ranger Woo, I kind of crave that. If I have envy, theme
There it
envy
is.
over anything, that's it for
yeah,
me, and I crave that. And so it's one of those kinds of things because I always wish I had that in my relationships. But as a coach, you are certainly maximizing those themes and using them. And we don't do this a lot on Called to Coach, but we really unpacked your top 5 today, which was
yeah, and it
a
was
lot of
great. I
fun.
loved hearing that. I learned a
Yeah.
lot about myself too.
There you go. A
Yeah,
little bit of
That's
coaching
good.
from the coach. Of course, that's Heather's job. So she probably did that very well. So thank you,
yeah,
Heather, for jumping in and do that. We'll remind everyone to take full advantage of all the resources we have available at the Gallup Strength Center. A lot of what we talked about, including the kits, are available off the Strength Center, although you might consider just using the store, shop.gallup.com. They're available out there if you want to go in. Just search in the search, type in kits, and all the kits we have available are right there. Of course, training is available for you as well. We talked about that. If you want to join us for training, you can do that, courses.gallup.com. We're excited about the CliftonStrengths Summit that's coming up this summer, July 18th through the 20th, and all the details are, I shouldn't say all, because that's not necessarily true today, but by the time you listen to this video, all the resources will be available for you out there as far as times and sessions and hotels and those kinds of things are all being finalized right now. Head out to courses.gallup.com, and of course, everything is available on our coaches blog, links to everything. That's just coaching.gallup.com. We try not to make it too difficult, right? Just trying to keep those simple for you. If you have questions about anything, send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. If you, we would say, I talked about the summit, blah, blah. Well, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate you coming out. If you found this helpful, we'd ask that you share it, and we'll look forward to the next Call to Coach. And with that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.